Hello, everyone. My name's James Dean, and welcome to HRC Online's Let's Talk HR. Today, we're going to talk about business partnering. Now, business partnering can mean many different things to many different people, but what we're going to try and do today is give you a bit of an insight into what our thoughts are when it comes to how you partner with a business and how you should work and how you should view yourself as a HR professional working within an organization. And to try and help us navigate this, I am joined today by Michelle Reed and Anne-Marie Stubbs. So I'm going to start with you, Michelle. Thank you very much. It's your first time joining us. Unfortunately, it is a Monday that we're recording this, but how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I have to apologise if I cough at any point. I'm suffering from a little thing, but I'm delighted to be here and happy to share insights with you and Anne-Marie. Thanks for the invite.
And Anne-Marie just moved house. Is the Christmas tree up or are you still unboxing?
It's in a box in the hallway, having just been bought from B&Q at the weekend.
It's not December yet. You're okay.
They're popping up all over the place.
It's not too soon.
See, most people now, after Halloween, definitely. It's acceptable, isn't it?
Oh, my daughter is counting down the days to the 1st of December, and my husband is saying, not a chance. There's 12 days of Christmas, and they're having a fight actively.
Always, because my birthday is on the 9th of December, it always used to go up on the 10th in our house, just because it was like, okay, well, you can have your birthday, then it's Christmas. Let's just, move on quickly.
Well, happy birthday when it comes.
I'm getting far too close to a certain number, which I don't want to say out loud. But let's move on from my aging self and move on to business partnering. Now, Michelle, what to you, if someone says you're a HR business partner, do you see yourself as part of the business, not part of the business? Is it just your role as a HR professional? You are a business partner. If someone says you're a business partner, what does that sort of mean to you?
So for me, business partnering is about supporting the business to hear and see its people, and supporting its people to hear and see the business. So for me, it's that middle ground where you are the conscience of the organization, but you're also the voice of the people. And it's about understanding both camps. And that's what business partnering is around. So you're able to take the voice of people to the decision makers, the C-suite, whoever it is that you report into, and say, here is information that will help you make an informed and data-based decision, and equally being able to take that back to those employees in the organization to get them to understand it from the business point of view. So for me, it's really that conduit and that support within the organization.
I have strange visions of you, like on a cartoon where you've got a good shoulder and a bad shoulder, and then they're having a conversation, and that's sort of the role of HR, which hopefully there's an everyone wins. Anne-Marie, is that how you see it? That sort of, I guess, Switzerland area we talked about before, haven't we? Sort of that middle part of the business.
Yeah, I actually think business partners have quite an advantageous role. So they are the people that are out there in the business, usually. In a lot of contexts, they're working with areas to try and help you get people agendas off the ground. And they're maybe also being that critical friend. So as Michelle was saying, they're kind of out there and they're pushing information forward, but at the same time, they're feeding back the views of the people so that decision makers have got an idea of how some agendas are going to land. I think essentially for me, if you've got something like an organizational strategy, you'd be well on your way developing that strategy, having people working with the people. So having the people partners, having your business partners, having somebody there that can provide that facilitation, that support, that critical friend challenge.
Yeah, and I think the way you've both described it, most people will hear business partner and they'll probably start to think about shared services and just being sort of separate to the business, running as a bit of a function, but that's really not what you're describing. Or I don't think it's what you're describing. What you're describing is that person that can sort of be approached, see things from both sides, and sort of help the organization move forward in its strategic goal and its strategic objectives. you can be a business partner and not be part of a shared service. You can also be a business partner as part of a shared service, but it's not just that extricated from the business, sitting in a different call center under a different, almost company supporting everything like that. Being a good business partner is just taking the time to understand both sides of a conversation and trying to help everyone find the best solution. Michelle?
I would say so. I think it's really important to understand that organizations are just a house. They don't have a personality, they don't have a voice. It's the people within that house that do so. So being a business partner is really about helping the organization to unlock the potential of people so they can be successful, and vice versa, helping the employees to understand how valuable they are within that, or supporting managers to help employees understand how valuable they are within that. I think it's interesting what you say about you can be a business partner in a shared service. I think it's important to understand that each organization will have a different structure. They will operate in different ways. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever's working in that organization or whatever that organization thinks that it should have. The most important thing is about how you apply yourself in that context and within your own purpose. That's what being a good business partner is all about.
Yeah, I think when I start to think about sort of some of the projects and being a good business partner is I think one of the areas where I think sometimes people struggle is people see HR as just a hit squad for the directors and stuff like that, because you have that path, Anne-Marie, you've got that path straight to the top. And sometimes people don't want to tell you, this is what's worrying me, this is what I think we need to do and stuff like that, because you've got that path to the top. But instead of thinking, well, actually, this is what helps everything make it better, they think, well, obviously you're on their side, so you're going to do what they want.
Yeah.
So how do you make people feel comfortable?
I think that path kind of works the other way as well. So I think sometimes that path creates a perception of, oh, you've got that line to the top, therefore if you're coming to talk to me, you're going to tell me what to do, and you're going to tell me how I should and shouldn't do things, and you're going to be that kind of regulator rather than that facilitator. I think I've totally forgotten what the question was that you asked.
How do you make people feel comfortable to know that they can come to you with information and that you're not how do you, because that's the big thing I think a lot of times HR have got to break is, I'm not a hit squad for the directors. I'm not here to tell you what they want. I'm here to find out what you want and help everyone benefit. How do you get that message across?
I think a lot of it comes into your approach and the soft skills that you exercise and utilize as a business partner. So I think if you're going to go into the business or go into an area and you're going to try and work with individuals, I think you need to go in and really understand what is going on, and sort of, give the perception and in through your actions and the things you say that you are approachable, you are there to facilitate, you are not there to control, and you're there to hear what's going on because you genuinely want that input into whatever strategy or plan it is that you're there to try and help deliver.
So listen, and probably listen some more.
I think it's also about the questions that you ask and how you frame your actions. So, for me, it's very simple. If you want people to approach you and you want them to tell you things, then ask the questions. Ask the key questions. What is it that you enjoy about working here? What is it that you don't? If it was your business, what would you change? What's standing in your way? And then ultimately be able to be very clear to say, look, I'm not here to solve all your problems, but I'm interested in understanding so that I can be that conduit in between. I can go back with information and then be really clear with the you said, we did, or you said and we can't do for whatever reason, or we choose to for not for whatever reason. So it's the two-way communication that's really important, and that's what will build trust for people, and that's what will make you approachable in that neutral zone that we have, because it's a lonely place to be as a business partner in an organization, because you're the conscience of the organization on one shoulder, back to my two-shoulder analogy, and then on the other, so you're conscious of the organization on one shoulder and the voice of the organization on the other. So it is a balancing act, but it's really about the questions that you ask. And sometimes I think we make being a business partner more complex than it needs to be. It's really about asking questions, listening, and taking action. communication at its heart, really.
Yeah, learning to read a room, I think, as well. So when you can see that things are not going to plan, or that there's things that people want to tell you that they might not be wanting to tell you or feel comfortable telling you, just learning to read that environment. And as Michelle said, asking the right questions to pull out some of those things in a safe way that makes people feel like you're actually working from good motives. You're not just gathering the information so you can take it back to someone who's then going to say, how dare they have said that? That's not acceptable. We can't have that. And, you know, there's then that that perception of hiring and firing.
I think, but the way you two are talking about this, and it's a bugbear of mine, is you're talking about collecting information through conversation, through interaction, through trust, not through spamming out a survey, getting results, and then doing a "you said, we did." Look at us, we're an amazing business partner because you scored this, this, and this.
Oh, don't even start me on a survey. Don't even start me on a survey. Don't get me wrong. Surveys have got a place, right? But an annual survey for the sake of an annual survey is a waste of time and effort. Realistically, if you have a larger organization or you want quick and dirty information from your staff, a survey is great, but it needs to have purpose, it needs to have meaning, and there needs to be some action on the back of it, and it needs to be processed quickly. So you have to be clever about it. So I don't have an issue with surveys in general, but I think the let's call it old school, I'm sure there'll be people out there that will shoot me down in flames, annual survey for the sake of the annual survey. What a waste of time and effort. What a waste of time and effort.
You're telling me the 6 months I've got to wait for the best company survey is
you know,
that's done over a snapshot of a millisecond of
purposeful.
time.
The whole reason that organisations do the best company survey is to demonstrate how good or not they are. That's got a purpose to it, right? But you know, if organisations are just doing an annual survey with the same questions and nothing's coming out of it, then it is a waste, and people will get jaded and they won't engage.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not best companies, but it happens at a short period of time, and then an entire set of business decisions are made off just a snapshot, which people could be angry for a whole multitude of reasons at that moment in time. Anne-Marie, you're not a survey person based on your reaction either. You like to sort of get out and engage.
We're all in good company here.
I mean, I agree with what Michelle said. I think they have a place and they have a purpose. But the thing with surveys is they're only any good if you actually take action off the back of them. And sometimes, you know, with a survey, all you've got is what the person puts into that survey to then inform that action and then do whatever. And I think a lot of it then comes into interpretation. It's really easy to do a survey, take a lot of feedback, and then sit and think, oh, I've interpreted it this way. This would make everything so much better. Let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and put solutions in place that your business might then be sat there thinking, well, that's not what we wanted. Well, that's not what we asked for. Oh, well, actually, you know, could we not have had a conversation about that and actually talk through some of the options about what would make things better or help us feel more engaged or improve our working lives? So I think I get the point of them. I understand why they're done. I appreciate them, but I don't think they're one thing solves all.
But I think you've just said it. You've just said it there. Let's have a conversation on the back of it. You know, ultimately, any form of survey or questionnaire or whatever it may be is only really important when you go and ask people questions on the back of it. You know, when I first joined my organisation, I did a couple of surveys, but then I did focus groups on the back of the survey to say, the data's telling me this, I'm interested in what you think. What does that mean to you? What was your view? What's more information or ideas or suggestions around about it? And it created that conversation. But the purpose of me doing a survey when I started in my organisation was to create a conversation and build trust. You said, we did. And that was the whole purpose of it. I want to understand where we're at on a variety of different things so that I can create a conversation and then take action. Hold on a second. Doris just decided to switch the light off.
That was very dramatic. I love it.
How to close a moment, Michelle.
Just came back to say sorry.
It's all right.
She says, at least I turned it off. Because normally, to be fair, she normally doesn't turn the lights off.
But I think you're both summarising it really well. And I don't want to put people off servers, and I don't want to put people off sort of these things. So we're going to talk a little bit about, to think, oh, well, what do I do? What do I do? Doing something's better than doing nothing. Trying to find out information is better than not trying to find out information. But I'm going to ask you both to think about sort of some good moments for yourself being a business partner. And just based on our conversation, I'm going to, whilst you think, give you an example of something that we talked about on a Let's Talk HR Women's Health. There was a girl, she had a hysterectomy at 22 and had to pay around about £500 per month for HRT support because the NHS wasn't enough to sustain her. She needed some additional for her own mental health. Now, she got company benefits of private healthcare, which she wasn't eligible for because she'd had a hysterectomy, whereas she went, if you could put that money towards HRT replacement, I'm going to be here for life because I need this drug to survive. Obviously, this benefit that you're paying for, I can't use. Is there something that we can do from this perspective? It's a really good example of how approaching HR, having a conversation about something that's difficult and how it could benefit you and how it can all come together could really that's how business partnering can work. It's having a really confidential and powerful conversation about a problem that you've got, speaking to HR and seeing if you can come to a solution that benefits not only the business, but you, creates that sort of bond between the organization and the employee. And HR's done that, being in the middle. Now, filling, whilst I gave that really good example, Michelle, I'm going to ask you a really a high moment for you being a business partner, how it all sort of came together.
I think for me, a really good example is the pandemic. So I joined my organisation 5 years ago in January. And when I joined, what they wanted wasn't actually what they really needed. And I've been really privileged to be able to shape and craft my own role here. We developed a leadership development programme that we did at all levels, 100 employees, very simple and easy to do these kind of things to everybody in the organisation, or with everybody in the organisation. That sounded really bad. To everybody, with everybody. It was things that people identified that they needed and they wanted. We had technical skills, but we hadn't done any form of behavioural skills. And I know you said soft skills earlier on. They're not soft, they're hard, and they're not easy for people to deploy. That's my kind of bugbear around about them. But when we got into the pandemic and we immediately had to work remotely, and we had to engage people a lot, those skills that we had trained people, and everybody turned up to the workshops and they did the work, and you had the usual kind of, oh, why are we doing this and why are we taking away from work, and some people really enjoyed them and all of this, and all of the worry. People are turning up to the workshops and then off they go. When we actually got through the first few months and everything, I say settled down because nothing was changing. Actually, I was able to see a lot of those behaviours were coming to life in practice. And it meant that our people came through that change and that crisis much easier than they may have done before. They just all rallied round, they communicated well, they were collaborating, they were doing all of the stuff that we'd been teaching them to do. And it had become natural. So that was a real high point, seeing the benefit of the investment that we'd be making with our people in one of the most, dramatic parts of anybody's career, I would imagine. Is that the type of example you were looking for?
Exactly the type of example I was looking for. And I think there are very few highs in the pandemic, during the pandemic and stuff like that. But I think one of the things that I really liked was just how it kicked through the red tape of, oh, we can't do that because of this. We have to do this. And it just kicked workforce into what I think is the next phase of development in terms of the flexible working, the working from home. They're doing this, they're doing that, they're potentially 4 days a week. It kind of just accelerated and kicked people into action. And suddenly all those, we can't do that because of, all stopped, and we have to do this because of, changed. So yeah.
I think it absolutely smashed all of the myths about home working and flexible working in one fell swoop, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I think what it also did is it wasn't just that we have to do this. It was, how can we do this?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? how can we come together to survive and thrive? And that's the piece that I will always be thankful for. And don't get me wrong, I will never wish for another pandemic, not by any stretch of the imagination, but you've got to look on the bright side. You've got to look at the positives that come out. And certainly for me, a highlight for me from a business partnering perspective was seeing the benefits and the outcomes for something that was a labour of love and hard going, really coming to fruition at that time.
And Marie, for you, a high moment in business partnering example?
So a high moment for me was probably a couple of years ago in the role previous to what I'm in now. I was sent out into the business, if you like, tasked with working with an individual on developing a program of onboarding and career development for overseas medical staff. And it was going to be brand new, big project. It had been kind of thought up by someone, but everyone was a little bit unsure about what it meant, what it would look like, how it would pan out effectively. So I and a colleague had a conversation about it, and the idea was very much that they were going to lead the project. They were going to, be the front man, if you like. They were going to, be the face of it, have a leading role in it. And we spent a lot of time talking about different options, different kind of things as to how you could do something. And, would you like this? What about this? Have you thought about this? So providing that element of critical friend and almost constructive questioning, open questioning, and giving space to talk and bat ideas around. And I remember we were having a conversation one day, and it had gone through kind of high moments and low moments. Some conversations had been great, and it felt like, well, we're really making progress, we're getting somewhere, this is shaping up to be something great. And then we'd have lower moments where we'd be like, we're not moving forward, something seems to not be getting across, is it lost in translation, and that kind of thing. And in the conversation that we were having, this person just turned around and said, do you know what, we'd been kind of having a conversation one day, batting ideas around, talking about stuff, and they went, do you know what? I was like, what? And I was kind of thinking, what are they going to say? What are they going to come out with? What's going to come next? And they just went, I like working with you. And I was like, oh, cheers. And they went, no. They went, literally, you help me shoot down my rubbish ideas so I can get to the good ones. So in effect, it was that kind of, you shoot down my rubbish ideas, I can get to the good ones through doing that and actually develop a program that's really successful. And that program was embedded. That program is now, has been up and running for a number of years and is really successful, actually. So
that's lovely.
That's a great example. And it's just a really good example of HR is not just this transactional beast. It's about people.
I think it was great because it gave them confidence in their own thoughts and their own kind of ideas, and that they weren't actually talking complete rubbish, even though they might have felt like it sometimes. And even though there was a couple of ideas which were a bit, I'm not sure if we can actually do that, or that's how that would work. It got us to a point and got things to a point where it cleared the way for the clear map and the vision to be put forward, and obviously that was then done.
Now, some people will be watching this thinking, well, does that mean I'm a business partner? We're business partner already if we're HR? And the answer to that is automatically yes, you are a business partner to a degree in terms of how you communicate and how you act yourself. But if they're asked the question, right, how do we start to implement that? How do we start to make people believe we're business partnering organization? How do we implement business partnering within this organization? Michelle, how would you tell someone to start that sort of conversation? Survey, I'm assuming, is not at the top of your list, but...
So for me, there's a piece around get rid of the ego and get rid of the HR. And I don't mean that in a glib sense. So I personally don't see myself as an HR business partner. I don't even call myself an HR practitioner in my organization, because what that does is that puts me in a box, and people then see me as this box of either the policy police or whatever, or that's HR, or they don't know. What I do is I see myself as a business partner, full stop. No HR at the beginning, nothing else at the end. And what's really important is that I take the time to understand the business. So what are the KPIs? What are the goals and the mission? What is it that our clients and our customers want from us, and how do our people deliver that? And then ultimately, you can then work with the people in the organization and the leaders in the organization to unpack and unbox that. Because as I said before, organizations are a house. It's the people within the house that create the cultures, create the voice, deliver the services, whatever it is that your organization does. So it's about creating that environment where people can thrive and your organization can succeed. So for me, if you want to be a business partner, then ditch the ego, ditch the title, and just go out there and talk to people. What is it that you enjoy about working here? What do you not enjoy? What would you change if it was your business? What's standing in your way? And just go and walk with people in their own areas, their own environments, because you'll then start to understand the micro cultures, and you will also be seen as that friend, that person who is interested in what they do, because most people just want to feel heard, they want to be seen, and they want to feel like they're part of something. So go out there and do that. And, you know, the example in my organization is going into the lab. So, you know, when I first walked into the lab in my organization, they were like, what are you doing in here? And I was like, oh, am I not supposed to be in here? Well, nobody comes through that door. Well, I am. And I just asked exactly the same questions. What is it that you enjoy? What is it that you don't? What would you change if it was your business? What's standing in your way? And ultimately, what that did was that wrote the action plan. That's what it did. And it wasn't an HR action plan. It wasn't a people strategy. It was none of that. It was how can we move the business forward and achieve the vision and the goals. That for me is true business partnering.
Now there's a point you made which I think is really important, because you said I don't call myself HR. Now this, you know, people have, you know, HR administrator, HR manager, HR director. They think there's roles and responsibilities that go with that and everyone. Whereas a business partner, whether it's business partner people, you know, because it can be business partners, people don't necessarily have the same connections with that. And something Lee Hawthorne says, who joins these regularly, is job titles matter. So in the sense that, you know, if someone was a well-being champion, he'd be like, I'm not going to that organization. You're not taking it seriously enough. Because if you're a well-being director, if you're head of well-being, get it, champion, it just sounds like it's a token effort. So business partnering, again, it makes it sound like you're there to partner with people. And that type of, you know, if you're going to take a step, maybe look at, well, how do we come across? Do we come across as policy police and administrators who just process leave and holiday and disciplinaries? Or am I actually a partner who, look, I'm saying I'm here for you both from day dot, from the off?
It's really about understanding what you stand for. And I think, you know, titles matter because they matter to people. Roles and responsibilities matter because they matter to people, but they need to be purposeful. And the most important thing is connecting people with their purpose within the organizational context. So people choose to come and work for you. They choose to come in and do that role for a particular reason. And I don't mean their motivations behind it, right? I mean, what is it that is driving them every day to get out of bed? Because they can choose to go anywhere else, but they choose to come and work for you. Therefore, if you can connect them back to that, then the roles and the responsibilities and the titles matter less, because actually what they're interested in doing more is a great job in the organizational context, and they'll learn more, and they'll be their own critical friend. They'll be happy to continuously improve. They'll be much happier on the change journey, all of those kind of things, if they're connected to that purpose. And we've got to practice that. So, you know, when people ask me, what do? I don't tell them that I work in HR. I don't tell them that I do strategic work or I work on the senior management team. I tell them that it's ultimately what I do is I unlock the potential of people to realize commercial success. That's what I do. And I can do that anywhere. So right now I'm heading up the engineering team. I'm not an engineer. I'm a qualified HR professional. But there was a people issue within our engineering team. So I stepped up and said, give it to me. And that's it. That is it. It doesn't matter whether it sits in an HR box or a finance box or a marketing box or whatever. It's what's needed in the organisation today. What is it that's causing your people not to perform for whatever reason, or to perform really greatly, so you want to shout about it more? And that's that for me is what it is. And I'll shut up now.
No, please don't. It's really good examples.
I could talk all day.
Really good examples. Now, obviously we talk about job titles and how you can create your own job titles and stuff like that. Anne-Marie, you work in a little bit more of a regimented system in the NHS, I believe, where if you were to create a job title, it has to go through rebanding and the whole process and everything like that. So everything's written down, and that's for fairness and openness and everything like that. So how do you approach it when obviously you have got that initial I am HR, which means XYZ? Do you just approach it the same way?
I think we have the regimented, this is your job title, this is your role, but I mean, for me, I look at it more from the perspective of your title's your title. It doesn't matter what you are, really. You could be called anything and anything. It's what you do in the role that matters, and what you do in the role that makes a difference. You could be the grand supervisor of something, I don't know, that sounds really good and technical and complicated, but if you're not actually able to deliver and to do something which shows what that means, or what the purpose of that is, or what the value of that is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You could have just called yourself Snoopy or something, just something very
direct to Snoopy.
I'm sure that made sense, but
I think the the NHS is an interesting one because, and I haven't worked in it, and Anne-Marie, so take this with the pinch that it's given. It has to have structures and regimented stuff that's in there. The service that it's providing, the people that it needs to have, the amazing stuff that it's doing for the people that are going through its doors every day. Of course, it needs to have that within that, but ultimately, it's still a group of people, and those structures and those functions are there to support and enable. And you can argue in every organisation, and I'm sure it's the same as the NHS and the same as mine, some of the structures and some of the functions can be inhibitors. But we all have them in every organisation, and it's about what we do as business partners to break them down, to unlock some of the barriers, but actually use the structures and the systems and the processes that are there to enable and unlock.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So actually, sometimes we absolutely have to have the structure and the regulation around the titles, but that in itself, in a way, is an inhibitor. And those titles can be quite off-putting, or those titles can be quite restrictive, or people will assume, the title sounds really important, therefore this person is, in charge of hiring, firing, whatever. They're obviously, if I get on the wrong side of them, I might end up somewhere, I don't want to be. When actually, at the end of the day, it's a person in a role that should be motivated to be doing the right thing in that role, regardless.
They understand their purpose and what they're doing, in the HS, the NHS, and again, because I've never worked there, but I just know from the outside as a user of the service, the purpose of the people there are to support those that use the service, to enable them to become, to sort whatever health issue they've got going on, to give them a high quality of care. That's a massive purpose. Even in my organisation in IOM, our purpose is to enable organisations to improve the health of their workers and their environments. So we're a bit of a pre-NHS. We don't want people to be using the NHS because their working environment has caused them a health issue, whether it's exposure to something in the air, whether it's a musculoskeletal disorder, all of that sort of stuff. So our organisation is about improving health. That's a massive purpose. And if people can connect with that, rather than I'm an engineer and I take analysis when I go out on site, or I churn a sample in the lab, or I write a bit of research, that's the stuff you do. You can do that stuff in any way that you want, as long as it's delivering for that purpose. And it doesn't matter if you're cleaning the toilets, or you're greeting visitors at the front door, or you're doing primary care, or you're doing high-end research. Doesn't matter. It's about how you show up, what you know, and what you do. And as business partners, we can help enable that.
Now, one of the questions we've got here is capability versus credibility. Now, I think Michelle and Anne-Marie, you've pretty much covered this quite a lot, which is capabilities, just the ability to have a conversation and try to connect people with purpose and ask them, what is it that you do? What is it that you enjoy? What is it that you struggle with? And then credibility comes when you start to take that information, you move it on. And as you mentioned, the you said we did, and you start to sort of take that information through. So we've pretty much covered the capability versus credibility element, which is just listen, talk, ask questions, take the information, do something with it, say something if you're not going to do it, say something if you are going to do it, and just have that open communication. I mean, is there anything on capability and credibility you think we've not covered? Because I think we've done quite a good job on that.
I think credibility is an interesting one, and I'll tell you a quick story about my organisation. So as I said, I'm currently heading up the engineering team, right? Am I a credible engineer? No, right? Not at all. And you can just imagine if I waded in with my size 6 toe caps going, right, engineers, we're going to get this sorted out, right? They would be like, you're having a laugh, right? Basically what happened is we knew with our pulse scores and the feedback that was coming back, there was a problem. The team were telling us there was a problem, right? They wanted things to change, right? We knew as a senior management team there was a problem. We had to stage an intervention. Our people were telling us it was there. So I worked with the CEO and the head of engineering to pull together a meeting where everyone was there, and I was introduced as the credible support. So the CEO and the head of engineering said, we hear you, we see you. Actually, do you know what? Michelle has volunteered. She has the skills to be able to get in and amongst the systems, the processes, because that's all it was really, and really hear what you're saying. So she is going to come in and apply her gifts and her skills to enable us to move this forward, because clearly what we're doing isn't working. And that's where I got my credibility from, because those who were credible said, we need help. Here's who's coming to help. So I think it's really important not to, if you see a problem and you think you have a solution, don't just run in trying to be the hero. Just take a minute to think through it and actually look at what is the best way of getting to the solution in the most effective way.
Makes complete and utter sense, and pretty much covers the final point that we're going to cover, which is context versus content. Which is, yes, you might think you've got a solution, but in the context, it's about how the organization comes together as a whole, how you can help that particular scenario, how you can gain that credibility, and how you can go in and support, as opposed to just, here's all this content on how you should be a better team. Off you go.
Or here's the newest hot topic. We're bringing it in because it looks shiny and new.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
SharePoint. Oh, that's the whole bringing in SharePoint. Oh, I hate SharePoint. That's the difference.
I think it's just really important to understand what is the problem that your business is trying to solve, internally or externally, and what do you need, and what is best to do that, and not even thinking that you've got all of the answers. And I said already at the beginning, if you go and you speak to your people, they will tell you what needs to be done. They won't be doing it themselves because either they've got a fear of failure, a fear of success, or they think they need permission, whether it's physical or psychological. They'll give you all of the answers. All you need to do is be their cheerleader and their champion to say, okay, you said, let's crack on with it. What do you need to make it happen?
Yeah. No. I think it's really, really important to understand the context. I think one of the things that we see sometimes when we see it all too much is once there is a proven solution or there's something that works or kind of a model answer to something, that becomes perceived as being all the way. This worked before, we should do this again. This worked over here, we should do this again. This business did this, that was great, let's do that too. And actually,
let's copy everything.
Yeah, exactly. If there's one thing that we know, and we said it really at the beginning, was that it's all about 50 Shades of Grey. It's all about the context. It's all about it depends. No two situations are the same. And I think if you want to find the solutions that are right and that work, you've got to get in amongst it. You've got to understand, and you've got to understand the environment. Otherwise, you're not going to be very successful.
Now, just to summarize what we've talked about, and I think the most important thing we can say is if you're going to try and be a business partner, it goes right back to the start, which is leave your ego at the door. Michelle said it's about being a cheerleader. It's about being a support. This is not about you getting credit for the solution. It's about helping other people get credit for the solutions. And if you can help other people get credit for their solutions, you will get credit. People will realize the work that you've done in getting involved and stuff like that. You don't have to be the ego at the front of it. Business partnering is about helping people maximize their potential, and they will value for it. Whether you're a critical friend in a really difficult project telling people their ideas are terrible, or if you're just taking over an engineering department and you have no idea about engineering but know how to work with people and how to get the best out of people by listening and helping them make the best of what talents and skills they've got. It's been Let's Talk HR. This has been how to be a good business partner. And if you want to start, just ask people, what are we doing well? What can we do better? How can I make your life better at work? And you'll get so much more information, and just start to collect that information and then start to feed the information up the chain. Thank you very much, Michelle and Anne-Marie. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.